everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Loudwire podcast. My name's Graham. Oh, Joe's not here. Joe is actually at a music festival. He's gallivanting around, and Joe has left me forever alone. Well, not forever. He'll be back next time. But today, keeping me company is the legendary Mike Portnoy. He came in to do this podcast literally right after he had murdered that Pokemon drum kit, which I hope you've seen by now, but that thing absolutely exploded. I was right behind the camera watching the entire time. It almost blew up. I feel like I got a Bulbasaur Pokeballs in my face. Now, the rocker versus writer topic, one that Mike didn't even want me to tell him about before we started this thing. He was telling me about how he loved these little segments on that metal show where they would get to argue about stuff. So I told him about rocker versus writer. He's like, don't even tell me what the subject is going to be because I just want to do this off the cuff. I said, no problem. And I picked one that I figured was going to be very personal for him as a drummer. And that is drum solos and basically other instrumental solos during gigs. Should they happen? He took the pro, I took the con. You'll hear that coming right up. Mike Portnoy is here, ladies and gentlemen. This is honestly one of my favorite podcasts we've done to date. I know we're still a baby podcast. We're still in our infancy, but please enjoy while we sit down and shout. Hey everyone, Loudwire podcast here, and we are with Mr. Mike Portnoy, the Hello Kitty drum kit killer. And now...
That's my claim to fame now.
I know. Happy to help you out. And then now the Pokemon drum kit
Well,
killer.
I've always been, jumping on the bandwagon and, just following trends. And Pokemon now is Pokemon Go, whatever it's called.
Yeah,
it's so
Pokemon
popular.
Go.
I had to jump on the bandwagon.
Exactly.
But let me tell you something. I've won 30 Modern Drummer Awards, been on the cover of the magazine 4 times, and I'm in their Hall of Fame. But all of that is completely irrelevant because I will now forever be the Hello Kitty guy, thanks to you guys. All of my career accomplishments are completely irrelevant at this point. It's all about that freaking video.
I know. And you were telling me that people now at shows are getting you to sign just Hello Kitty merch. Just anything that has Hello Kitty on it, they're having you sign.
I've gotten some good gifts too. Like in Japan, I got like Hello Kitty Kiss shirts. It's all the Kiss characters, but in Hello Kitty style. So some good has come from this.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Oh man. So the reason that you're actually in the city today, we got to hang out with you a little bit, is you're helping your daughter move into college.
That is true.
That's right. Yeah. Is this the first kid who's going to college of yours?
Yeah, my daughter Melody, she's 19. This is actually her second year of college. Her first year of college she did up in Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
And now she's going to New York Film Academy, and she's moving in today. So I'm jealous. I've always wanted to live in New York City my whole life. I'm gonna be 50 years old, and yet my 19, did I say 17? She's 19. Maybe I said 19.
Anyway, I know you said 19, yeah.
But my 19-year-old daughter is moving into New York before I did, so I'm a little jealous.
That's pretty awesome. What's it like that first kid going off to college?
Well, last year she was real close to home, so she would come home on the weekends, or we could go over there and see her for dinner any time of the week. So it wasn't that rough for me and my wife, but this year we're going to really feel. You
got to drive a few hours now.
Yeah. I mean, we're like an hour and a half, 2 hours to New York. So yeah, we're going to feel it. It's going to be sad, but my son is still home. My son Max is 17 and he's a drummer. He's a great drummer actually. And he's got his own band, and they're actually doing a lot of touring and stuff. So, my wife.
What's his band called?
They're called Next to None.
Okay.
And they have one album out already. They're working on their second album now, and they're kind of like Slipknot and Lamb of God with like the technical shred of like Dream Theater. So it's like kind of proggy, but super like
Groove.
super technical and heavy, like screamo vocals. They're kind of like progcore.
Okay, all right.
I think they're inventing their own genre, progcore.
Cool, good for them. No college for him, you think?
No,
Or
he's definitely he's
all into
about
touring and stuff. Yeah,
totally. I mean, he's already got his first record deal. You know, when I went to I was at Berkeley and we formed Dream Theater. We stayed in college until we got our first record deal a few years later. But Max is, he got his first record deal at 16, and so they're up and running. So he's been cyber schooled, like he does all his. He's still going to graduate high school, but he does it all with like online schooling.
Sure. Is it safe to say that if you'd gotten the deal earlier, no college for you?
Fuck no, man. Can I say?
You can say whatever you want. Yeah, you can swear.
No, I mean, to me, look, I loved going to Berkeley, and I have nothing but great things to say about that experience.
Of course.
But to me, the best thing I got out of it was meeting the guys that I formed my band with, and and from there we began our career. So if that had happened in high school, mission accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely. And so right now, you're with Twisted Sister doing these final shows of the final tour, manning AJ Pero's spot. I mean, again, as we talked about earlier, one of the best live bands ever. And you just talked to me about having to go on after Iron Maiden in Europe at a festival. Can you please tell me what that's like to know you're going to be going on after Iron Maiden? Probably the first band to go on after Iron Maiden in a decade.
There's not many bands that could go on stage after Maiden. And Slayer, too. We did many festivals going on after Slayer, too. And those are two bands you can't follow. There's very few bands that could follow. And Twisted Sister is one of those bands, and I'm not saying that because I play with them now. I've always said that. Dee is one of the greatest frontmen of all time, always was, and still is, and always will be. And yeah, it's pretty weird to be like in the dressing room warming up, and you're hearing like "Run to the Hills" and the Number of the Beast playing, and it's like they finished their set, and I texted Nico. I was like, "Thanks for warming them up for me, kiddo." But yeah, I mean, Twisted is one of those bands that can close the show and is completely commanding of that of any audience that's put in front of them. And the shows I've been doing with them has been each and every one of them have been some of the most incredible career memories for me. The shows have been huge. I mean, over in Europe, we were talking about this off air before, but like big shows here in America are like 10 or 20,000 people.
Yeah, those
big shows in Europe are 80, 90, 100,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally, 5-10 times the size of the festivals here in America. So they're massive. And Twisted over there, they get that recognition and the respect. They honestly,
especially over there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If I'm being honest, here in America, I think most people, unless you live in New York, most people in America don't get it. They look at Twisted Sister as these 2-hit wonders from the 80s and probably lump them in with Quiet Riot and Rat and things like that. I think there's a lot of people in America that don't get the true legacy of Twisted. I think maybe now that they put out that movie, We Are Twisted Fucking Sister,
great movie.
Oh, it's amazing. And I think that's helping a lot of people, especially here in America, realize, they've been doing this for 40 years. They started in the early 70s and they had a 10-year career before they even got signed.
Yeah,
so
it's nuts.
They recognize that in Europe. I mean, here in the tri-state area, if you grew up with them, you get it.
Yeah.
But in Europe, they get it. And that's been really awesome touring with them over there and headlining these festivals like Grass Pop and Hellfest and all these massive, massive festivals. And, they're headlining on the, Saturday night with Black Sabbath or Iron Maiden headlining, playing on the other nights. So it's pretty awesome to be with them for this final lap. And I hate to see them ending because they're like, they're as big as ever. They're playing the biggest shows of their careers right now. So, and, they have the documentary, which is a huge hit on Netflix. And we just put out a live DVD, Metal Meltdown, which came in the Billboard charts at #1. So the band is doing as well as they were in the 80s, if not bigger and better. So it's a shame for me to see it end, coming on board right on the, the home stretch.
Yeah. And that is interesting being, growing up like a New York kid, knowing Twisted Sister And now your name is like forever going to be etched in a very, a small part
Right.
of the legacy, but a part of that legacy.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's pretty awesome. There's a picture in my high school yearbook of me and I'm wearing a Twisted Sister shirt in my high school yearbook.
Yeah.
You know,
Did you show D and the guys
I did,
that?
yeah.
Oh man.
I'm the new guy, but I'm the only guy in the band with Twisted ink.
Oh, there. Yep.
I got a Twisted tattoo a few
right
weeks
down
ago.
near your foot. Oh, that's a new one.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And D texted me right after I got that, and he's like, "I can't believe the new guy is the only guy with ink," and they were all talking about maybe getting him too. So
really?
yeah, so we'll see.
So that might happen in their 60s. They might get their first tattoos.
Well, actually, D's got ink, and I think JJ's got he's got a few tats, but D's got some ink, yeah.
Gotcha.
But none of them have twisted tattoos.
No.
I think it would be a great way to commemorate this final run and an amazing career that they've had that I'm honored to be a part of.
For sure. Another part of your career that's going to be a first is the 12-step suite. We're finally going to be able to hear it live, or at least the people on a cruise for your 50th birthday, no less. And you have put out sort of an open invitation for any of the guys from Dream Theater to come and be a part of it. Has that been more of like a passive invitation, or have you actually reached out to any of the guys personally?
I did specifically email two of the members. I don't want to name them. I don't want to point fingers and have people say, "Oh, this person, that person." But I did specifically email two of the guys in the band that I'm still friends with and on good speaking terms with.
Okay.
And before any of this went public, the idea of this 50th birthday concert and the 12-step suite being performed, before any of that was announced, I emailed a couple of the guys and extended an invitation to join me on the cruise. First and foremost, to join me for my 50th birthday. You know, I spent 25 years of my life with these guys, and they're, dear friends and brothers of mine. Even though we're not in a band together anymore, I still, hold all those years in incredible sentimental, regard. And so anyway, I emailed a couple of guys and said, look, I would love for you guys to be a part of this celebration. Forget about the concert. It was like just to be there. And I extended the invite to them and their families and would take care of their accommodations and said, look, I'm also, as part of this concert, I'm doing a career retrospective concert. And of course I have to play some Dream Theater material with, some sort of career retrospective. So of course I have to have Dream Theater material represented. And I wanted to give them the heads up and say, look, I would love to be performing it with you guys first and foremost. And I want to give you first crack at joining me for this material and being there for my birthday celebration. In any case, they politely declined. And I think they're just still a little uncomfortable with, the idea of any kind of quote unquote reunion, and I think, and I get that. I could see where for them, it could be misinterpreted. They've spent the last 6 years trying to really establish themselves without me. And I could see how any kind of performance with me, especially of this material, could be misinterpreted. So I get it. And I honestly don't hold a grudge towards them for declining the invitation. But that being said, I want to play these songs. It's an important thing that for me on an emotional level and a personal level. When I wrote these songs about my recovery from alcoholism and never got to perform them live. And, I wish it was with Dream Theater. I wish it was with those guys, but it's just here in 2016, 2017. It's just, it's not in the cards for where they're at. And I get that. So, I onward and upward, and I'll be playing these songs with an amazing group of musicians and other all-star people in the prog world, other name guys from the prog world that are put together to play this stuff with me. So it'll be awesome. And once word got out that I was going to do this at my 50th birthday concert, suddenly now I started getting invitations from all these other festivals and things like that.
Do the 12-step suite.
Yeah, well, festivals? I mean, once word got out, the fans were like, they wanted to see this, and not every kid on the block can afford a $1,000, $2,000 cruise.
Sure.
So there's been a lot of requests from different festivals around the world for me to do it. So we just actually announced I'm going to do it at Prague Power next year in
Whoa,
Atlanta.
all right.
So that's next September. And there's going to be a handful of other select performances of this. You know, I figured while I'm doing it, the main thing for me was to do it at my 50th birthday show, and it would, it made sense. The time was right. But I figured if I'm going to be up and running and rehearsed with a group of guys and musicians, and there's people that want to hear this that can't necessarily make the cruise, then look, why not do a handful of them throughout the world in some select markets? And I don't want people to think this is any kind of new band or new project or a career move. Sure. I don't want it to be misinterpreted by all the blabbermouth idiots that are going to be like, oh yeah, I knew he couldn't let go of Dream Theater. He's got to cash in on Dream Theater. No.
Well, this is something you've never been able to do before.
Exactly. And look, I've proven that the last 6 years, I have a million other bands. I'm in 48 bands at the moment.
Oh, just Avenged and Twisted and Winery Dogs. And just
Metal Allegiance and Transatlantic and Flying Colors, Adrenaline Mob, I've proven that I have no desire or need to be playing Dream Theater material for a career move.
Yeah.
But if I want to do this and I want to do some select performances of music that I was a part of the writing of, and it was a huge part of my personal, outlet, I think I'm entitled to it. If I want to do it, I think that's, when not to compare myself to Roger Waters, but Roger Waters is out there the last 30 years playing Pink Floyd songs that he wrote. And it's not like it's a Pink Floyd cover band. It's Roger Waters playing his music with his band, under his own solo, billing or whatever. So it's really no different if I want to play these songs. But I'm doing it for fun, and it's a one-off thing, and it's not like I'm making a career move out of playing this material. It's just a one-time thing.
Yeah, that's the thing, is the 12-step suite is really your thing. I mean, that's most identified with you, and, as you're saying, of the story behind it and what it means to you. So it's not like you're just like, here's the hits, everybody.
Right.
No, it's something extremely personal, and it's something that is absolutely yours.
I think most people get that. I'm glad you get it. But, of course, there's going to inevitably be assholes
that
diss me for it. But you're right. It was a very, very personal thing for me. Not only the lyrics, but the whole idea and the concept behind it, and the interconnecting songs and the themes and all that. It was all, it was my idea, plain and simple.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to finally get to do it.
I'm excited for people who've been wanting to see that forever. Will now finally get to check that out. Is that what Shattered Fortress is going to be?
Yeah, exactly.
That's Shattered Fortress. Okay.
I mean, it needed a name, so that's what we're calling it. It's going to be Mike Portnoy's Shattered Fortress, in the places that we perform this.
Okay, so Shattered Fortress is like the event title of it?
Exactly. That's the thing. It's not a band. It's not my new band. It's not a project. It's an event.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. And I know that you just went and saw Avenged Sevenfold. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yesterday. Mm-hmm. So you got to go see them play with Brooks Wackerman, a guy who I'm a huge fan of.
Oh, he's awesome.
I'm a huge Bad Religion fan, and he was so important in getting Bad Religion through their modern renaissance of music. When he joined, they just had album after album of perfect punk rock, and I'm a punk kid at heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a deep love for Brooks Wackerman, although I was sad to see him go from Bad Religion. But, man, that's one thing, though, is a lot of people didn't really get to see his chops with Bad Religion because he's playing D-beats and, punk rock stuff. What do you think of Brooks? How was he at the show?
He's awesome. I've always loved his playing. I was never a Bad Religion fan, to be honest with you. But I know his stuff from, the Infectious Grooves albums.
Yep.
And he actually did an album last year that was one of my favorites last year. It's a band called Pharmacos. It was Joe Holmes. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Joe Holmes that played with Ozzy.
Sure.
Brooks on drums, Robert Trujillo on bass. And it's
Rob's back.
Awesome album called Pharmacos. And his playing on that is awesome. And, Brooks he's played with Korn, he's a session guy. He played on the Untitled album, I think. So he's played on so many albums and so many, different things through the years. So I've always had a tremendous respect for his chops and his ability and his technique. And he's fitting right in with those guys. It was really cool to see last night. I spent some time with the guys and spent some time with Brooks, and he fits right in. You know, he's definitely from the same world as those guys. You know, California, kind of same age
That's
group,
true.
and
Yeah.
and you know, Avenged. They started out more hardcore and punk rock. You know, and they
That's
even
true.
last night they played some stuff from the Wake and the Fallen album, and
Oh yeah.
and you know, it was all the super fast, upbeat stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it was right up Brooks' alley. So I hope they kind of utilize him and go in that direction with their new album. I have no idea what they have planned for their new album. We didn't talk about it when I hung with them last night, but you know, I hope that they let him do his thing and don't hold him back at all. And it was great to see the guys. You know, it was cool to see Brooks playing, you know, all of my drum parts from the Nightmare album. And
Yeah.
well, I guess I don't want to say my parts. They were kind of a hybrid between my parts and the Revs parts as well. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, I wish them all the best, and I'm happy that he's with them. I think he's a great choice.
Brooks is really awesome. I can kind of see what you mean. I've met him before and interviewed him, and he's just such like, he seems like a very easy going guy just to get along with, and like just as you're saying, like that California just chill,
Yeah,
awesome,
totally.
cool guy.
Totally.
He's awesome. I love Brooks Wackerman. So let's get into some rocker versus writer. So here's the topic that I want to do. I want to do solos during concerts.
Okay.
So as a man who I think I will be taking the don't like the solos at the shows at point, but I will say first of all, justifiably, I've always liked your drum solos when you've done them, and that's what I'll
See,
concede.
but
to this thing.
here's the twist. You're assuming that I'm pro drum solos. I
Whoa! Oh, do you want to take the anti? I can take the pro.
will take the pro,
Okay.
but I will tell you, I'm not the biggest fan and supporter of drum solos.
Wow. Okay.
I actually stopped doing them maybe about 10 years ago or so because honestly, well,
Go ahead.
I'll debate. Well, I get bored watching drummers just play, you know? I mean, there's certain drummers that, of course, I could watch play for hours.
Yeah.
You know, John Bonham, of course. You know, the Moby Dick drum solo was just incredible.
Sure.
You know, the first few times I saw Rush, you know, seeing Neil Peart play his drum solo was like...
Neil Peart's
that
one
was-
guy who can.
That was like, you know...
Yeah.
the showstopper, you know, and the moment that everybody remembered. So there are certain people that can do it and they do it well. But here's the thing for me: when I see a drummer play a solo, I don't want to see them just with all this flash and technique and chops. To me, it's boring. It's like it's watching somebody masturbate, you know, and I've always liked drummers that actually, if they're going to do a solo, do something fun and entertaining with it.
Sure.
Like, I'm a huge fan of Tommy Lee's drum solos. I think
Oh,
Tommy
yeah.
Lee,
Can't argue against
a
that.
fucking roller coaster running through the entire arena. I mean, come on, that is entertainment at the highest level, and he took it to a whole new level. And that's kind of where I was at in the end when I was doing drum solos. The last couple of Dream Theater tours that I did solos on around 2003, 2004, it no longer was fun just playing. So I actually turned it into an entertaining thing. I would actually come out front with a little drum, and I would look for the people in the first row that were playing air drums, you know, throughout the show. And I would go up to them with this single tom and hand them a pair of sticks and jam with them. And then whoever was like the best drummer of the guys that I jammed with in the front, then I would pull them up on stage and pull them behind the kit with me to play with me behind the kit.
Wow. Yeah.
So to me, it wasn't about showing off and how great I am and the chops I have and the technique. No, it was a form of entertainment. It was using those 5 or 10 minutes that we're not using to playing songs and actually creating some sense of entertainment value and interaction with the audience.
For sure.
So I may have just buzzkilled your whole argument.
No,
but
this is the talk. It doesn't have to be like, we don't have to be at each other's throats, but this is the talk. So for me, I generally hate it when drummers, guitarists, you know what I really hate? I really hate when like Gene Simmons does his bass solo,
Right.
when he just kind of like smashes his bass with his fists for like
And then
like,
flies around and spits blood, and that's the
well,
bass solo.
see, that's pretty cool.
Well, that's the
I like
that's the entertainment value that I'm talking about.
That's kind of the reason he does the bass solo.
Right.
But he does it for like 4 minutes. And
Right.
it's kind of like clunk, clunk, clunk. And when a drum solo goes for like 5 minutes, say, and it's just the guy behind the kit, I think I'm sort of in the majority where I'm like, I would rather hear another song.
Totally.
I want to hear another song. I don't want
agree
to
with
hear
you.
just like the, you know, especially if it's a guy who's just kind of doing rudimentary stuff and just going like,
Faster and then slower, and then get the audience to go, hey, and
yeah. See, I hate that too. Like I hate like the crowd participation, like chanty parts.
right. Well,
of it.
because those are all cliches. Those are all drum solo cliches.
I think that's
and you could
that's
actually
why.
take 7 out of 10 drummers, and their drum solos are going to be made up of all of those drum
Sure.
solo cliches.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree that I think it's what better spent for those 5 minutes to play another song, you know, and
Yeah.
and that's kind of where I kind of got to with that after a while. Like you actually can see the Dream Theater Live at Budokan DVD on the bonus footage. Like we had a curfew and we were filming a DVD, and I chose to not do a drum solo because I would rather have another song or two in the set list for the fans. And I don't know. I think I'm just, maybe it's that stage in my life and my career that I that's why I stopped doing drum clinics as well. I used to do hundreds of clinics in the 90s, and I kind of just got bored with it. It's like now, if I'm going to do something extracurricular, I'd rather spend that time maybe, you know, playing with another band, you know, doing a session or filling in with a band for a tour. I'd rather spend my time playing with other musicians. I think that's what the beauty of music is.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed with some of these drum technicians, and I'm not going to name names, but these guys that are technically unbelievable. Sure, you know, what they're doing is incredible, but, you know, like, what are you going to do with that? You know, like, how do you use that in the context of a song or a band?
Yeah, it's about imagination in the end, I think.
Yeah.
Rather than just playing as fast as you can.
But look, there are people that I like. I happen to be in a band with somebody that is in my opinion, one of the greatest bass players of all time.
Oh, Billy Sheehan.
Yeah.
See, I could watch Billy Sheehan do a solo
Exactly.
any day.
Totally.
He's one of those guys.
And I think when you see the Winery Dogs or Mr. Big or anybody that Billy's playing with, I think the bass solo is one of the highlights of the night. And every single night that he's playing his bass solo, which happens to be different every night as well, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting over on the side of the stage. I watch him each and every night. And there are certain people that are entertaining and also musical with what they do. So
Yeah.
there are exceptions, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you do have to be like a certain kind of player, certain kind of figure in like the rock world to be able to really pull that off. And
Right.
again, imagination. Like for me, of course, the guy you're friends with, Alex Skolnick, I could hear Alex Skolnick play an hour-long guitar solo during a set, and I would not complain about it. You know, he's just so excellent and so different and so
Right.
passionate. So I'd love to do that. I would love to hear that. So I wouldn't complain about that.
There are people, I mean, Randy Rhoads. I mean, I used to
no
listen.
one could complain about that.
I mean, he was awesome. Or you know, Dimebag or Eddie,
yeah.
even
That's
Eddie Van
true.
Halen in his prime. I mean, you know, those guys, you could listen to them play for hours, and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Eddie Van Halen he's had a couple bomb solo things in his time, but there's one thing that I didn't really like the Black Sabbath current farewell tour.
Mm-hmm.
And Tommy Clufetos is a great anchor for that band. He plays stiff and heavy and like exactly what you want, like those gargantuan footsteps, you know, to complement Tony and Geezer and Ozzy. And he does a great job, but I don't want to see a Tommy Clufetos 5-minute drum solo.
He does a solo with them?
Yeah. And, you know, I don't want to see that. You know, if Bill Ward was there, I'll take it. But I mean, Black Sabbath has just this litany of material. Just, I mean,
Right.
like
That's
the first 8 albums. Pick anything off the first 8 albums, and you know, even a lot of stuff past that. better time spent at, you know, a show that you pay, you know, $100
I
whatever
agree.
dollars for.
I got to tell you, the same when I started playing with Twisted last year, they asked me if I wanted to do a drum solo, and I was like, no. You know, I think that would be disrespectful to AJ because I was coming in to, you know, kind of, you know, respect him and pay tribute to him. So I thought that would be disrespectful to do that and step on his toes or take away from his attention. But B, it was like, yeah, I would rather hear, you know, Under the Blade for those 5 minutes or hear, you know, Destroyer or something cool, you know. So I politely and respectfully declined the invitation for a drum solo with them.
Yeah. I'm glad because I think that probably would have rubbed fans the wrong way.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and I don't think AJ ever played.
Well, he did actually.
Did he play solo?
Yeah. In fact,
Okay.
if you see the Metal Meltdown DVD, there was a part in the show last summer, all the shows we did, where in Burn in Hell, actually, where AJ used to do his solo, we fade away and they showed a video of one of AJ's solo.
Wow.
In you know, on the screens, and then we come back in to finish the song.
Wow, what a beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
tribute that is.
I think that was awesome because we were honoring him and paying tribute to him. So you know, in that case, it was you know.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
That's really awesome. And I think I'm trying to think of like who I would like to see do some sort of vocal solo because there's some
King Diamond.
Oh yeah, like just him or Rob Halford.
Yeah,
him doing that. But then there are some singers who, you know, they'll take you know, a bit of the spotlight to talk to the crowd, and that's not really a solo. But I've seen some singers like I don't know, like I remember I was at a festival and Five Finger Death Punch was playing, and you know, Ivan was like kind of acapellaing with the fans, and it's like a call and response thing, and that's cool. And I would have to talk to them, like the fans, to see if they were into it. But for me, it's just like
I think most singers, the entire show is their solo. You
I know
they're
like,
frontmen.
What more do you need, singers?
Exactly. But I've seen there are guys that I could just watch their rants between the songs. Like when I see Opeth, that's like Michael Arkefeld.
Oh, I love his banter.
Yeah, and Devin Townsend as well.
We just had Devin here. He's the greatest.
So like when I see Devin or I see Opeth, like I actually can't wait till the in-between spots to hear what they're going to say.
I agree.
And it's great because guys like that are completely spontaneous. You know, they're not saying the same shit or the same banter each and every day. They're flying off the cuff and reacting to the moment, and I love their in-between stuff. And not to keep coming back to Twisted Sister, but D as well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the only band I've ever played with that like I get 5-minute breaks between songs. Yeah. You know, normally I'm like desperate to try to get a sip of water in between songs with most bands I play with. In this case, I could, you know, go drink a few bottles of Gatorade in the time that D's like, you know, talking to the audience.
Yeah.
And each and every night he's, you know, doing different stuff as well. So it's always entertaining.
Yeah. One thing that I may like completely like lose the side of any fans that are like on my side of the argument right now, but I personally, I hate the Jimmy Page, violin bow guitar thing.
Oh, that was pretty awesome.
I hate that.
Really?
I've never got to see Zeppelin live, obviously, but
well, I think you needed to be on acid in the audience in 1973 to really fully appreciate it.
You know, that's, you know, I can't argue that, but
I did a Zeppelin tribute with Paul Gilbert years ago, Hammer of the Gods, and Paul did the entire violin bow thing like exact. You know, he nailed the whole Jimmy Page thing with the violin bow and the Dazed and Confused extended jam and middle section. And I don't know, man. I think that's cool as shit.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I'm probably in the minority there, but I just like, I just can't stand that. Like if I kind of want to see Jimmy, I would like to see a Jimmy Page solo, but him to do like maybe some more like weird bluesy stuff.
Well, the thing with Zeppelin is they did so much jamming. Like no Zeppelin show was the same. You know, no version of Dazed and Confused is the same. You know, some of them are 20 minutes, some of them are 40 minutes, and everything that was going on in the middle was, you know, off the cuff. And same with the whole band. You even listen to Robert Plant's melodies, the way he sings the melodies live. He's changing them every night and from moment to moment and night to night. And that was one of the greatest things about Zeppelin that I think's underappreciated. I think they were an incredible live band because of that. And, you know, every one of them from night to night were doing different things. And Deep Purple was the same. Like if you listen to the Made in Japan album, those guys are jamming, you know. And I love bands that do that they stray from the studio versions and they're actually jamming, and each and every night you don't know what's going to come out, and I think that separates the men from the boys.
I actually really associate the old jammy bands to like the golden age of what rock and roll was.
Absolutely.
Like when you have a band like Zeppelin or Purple or
Hendrix,
I was just
or
about
Cream.
to say Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
I mean, he had so many amazing jams. My favorite one, Killing Floor. He did a great, like, I mean, you know, that song is amazing as it is, but I always listen to like the 8-minute version from I think Live at Winterland. So I think that's like, when it comes to spreading off and doing something like that, instead of doing a solo, let's do a jam. Let's do a jam. That's one of
There's very few bands that do that these days. You know, you have the jam bands.
True.
You have the bands like Fish and Humphreys McGee and stuff like that. But like, I don't think we're talking about that. I think we're talking about bands that are just straight up rock bands or metal bands that actually just like get up there and just fly in the edge of their pants. And I miss that. I think we try to do a little of that with the Winery Dogs. I think the Winery Dogs are trying to bring that spirit back. Like I know the way Billy and I play in the Winery Dogs is very similar to the way Keith Moon and John Entwistle played in The Who, where like when you listen to like Live at Leeds, basically Keith and John are all over the place. Just and the guitar and vocals, like Roger and Pete, are the anchor, you know? And it's very much like that in the Winery Dogs. Me and Billy are just completely going off the entire time, and Richie is kind of the anchor. So we're trying to bring some of that spirit back into, you know, a little bit of today's music. And there are some cool bands out there doing it, but it's fewer and fewer. It's not like it was in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, that's true. I honestly can't think of the last time I saw an impromptu jam on stage from a band, like especially from a big band, because everything is so choreographed.
Everything is like, man, you wouldn't believe how many bands these days are playing to tracks and playing to click tracks, and everything is literally, you know, coming off of their computer, you know, and the light show and the video show and the music and everything is coming off a computer. And obviously once you do that, there's no room for straying.
No. As opposed to Purple, who walked on the stage and started playing.
Totally.
And that's all they had to do.
Well, the Winery Dogs do that. Thank God for that. In fact, all the bands I play with, I don't use a click with any of them.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm just not into that.
Yeah.
I did use it with Avenged Sevenfold when I was with those guys, mainly because they had the Revs vocals pre-recorded and they had some string parts and keyboard
that's
parts.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah, in that case, you know, that's the reason for it. It wasn't like they were, you know, trying to be perfect. I'm not a fan of perfection. You know, to me, leave the perfection in the studio when you're making the record. I think when you're getting on stage, it's about interacting. It's about feeling the moment. It's about feeling the audience, connecting with an audience. And I think it's fine to sometimes be a little fast, sometimes be a little slow, and totally. You know, give and take and push and pull. And that's what makes us human. That's what makes a band a band.
Yeah. So I think we can agree that let's bring back the jams, maybe taper off on the soloing a little bit, unless you are like a real figure.
A unique voice.
A unique voice or bassist or guitarist.
Yeah, I would want to watch Cliff Burton play bass for 30 minutes.
You know, that
you didn't like his solos?
I do. I wouldn't want to see him play for 30 minutes.
Here's the thing. We're going to get off on a side tangent here, but where are the Cliff Burtons of today? You know, there were, you have Geezer Butler, Cliff Burton, Billy Sheehan, I've put in that same category. Guys that are groundbreaking bass players that played the bass like a lead instrument. And since Geezer and Billy and Cliff,
Steve
Harris, but where have they been since then? Cliff was 30 years ago. Billy came around 30, 40 years ago. Like, where are the guys that play bass like a lead instrument these days?
Even like Lemmy, he did that too.
Yeah, totally.
Lemmy's in that same category.
Absolutely. But there are no bass players today that play the bass like a lead instrument.
Oh man, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Even like the new proggy bands. They're still kind of dancing around the main thing, and that's great.
Maybe Les Claypool, but even he came around 25 years ago. Like I'm itching for a new Cliff Burton.
Maybe again like Flea, he does it like
30 years ago.
30 years. You're right. that kind of rock is gone by the wayside, hasn't it? Along with the jam bands.
Like, I want to see a bass player up there with a fucking Rickenbacker through a wah-wah.
Especially a Rickenbacker.
Through a wah-wah and a distortion pedal, like Lemmy or Cliff Burton. It's just, they don't exist anymore.
Man.
We need a new crop of them.
That's a good question. Yeah, that is a good one.
Where the bass is like the lead of the band, the lead sound of the. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Cliff was was one of the driving forces of Metallica on those early albums.
He absolutely
was. And that's, not that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and writing one of the best riffs period ever, and like like from the bell tolls, like that was all him. That was all him. I
or
think.
Steve Harris.
Steve Harris, him playing triplets is like the greatest thing in the world, and especially on a song like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, where he'll take it and just completely hold down the entire band, even though there are 3 other guitarists on stage.
Right.
Absolutely. So, all right. So that's the rocker versus writer segment.
There you go.
Let us know what you think. Tell us who you think should start playing bass more like a guitarist, and who you want to see maybe do a little less soloing, maybe a little more soloing in the comment section below. So, the Winery Dogs, I want to know what plans you guys have got in the future. Last year, we got the latest record, Hot Streak. What's the deal? I know you guys have all been busy.
We pretty much were on the road for about a year straight. The last year, I guess the album came out, I think it was last September, so it's a year ago now.
It was almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, and we did 2 or 3 rounds through the States, and we did a couple of rounds through Europe, and we went to South America, and we went to Japan. So it was a pretty extensive tour throughout the globe, and we're pretty much winding down the cycle now. We have a couple more appearances a few weeks from now on the Monsters of Rock cruise, and that pretty much winds up the cycle for us. And at that point, I'm going to go off to my other 87 bands, and Billy, I think, has some one-off stuff with Mr. Big, and I know Richie's going to do all the stuff with his solo band. So I think we'll probably take a little time to each do our own thing, and then regroup. I don't know, maybe next year, or maybe early 2018. I'm going to be busy kind of in prog mode for most of 2017.
Of course, doing your sweet stuff.
I'm going to be doing that, and I have a new album with the Neil Morse Band. We just finished, honestly, what I consider to be one of the greatest albums of my career, to be honest with you. I've done almost 50 albums now, and this is up there as one of the greatest musical achievements of my career. And I know this is more of a hard rock metal forum, and what I do with the Neil Morse Band is more pure old school prog in the vein of Genesis and Yes and Floyd and Crimson.
I mean, we love Yes and King Crimson. I mean,
well, for what it's worth, this Neil Morse Band album, it's a double concept album, and it's to me, it's my Wall or Tommy.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm very, very excited about it and proud of it, and so I'm going to probably be focused on that band and that project for at least the first half of 2017.
All right. Oh, well, I'll have to keep my ears out for that one.
Yeah.
Last question for you today. I would love to get maybe your personal favorite Dream Theater memory. Maybe something when you just kind of look back, when you find yourself looking back at your career and you think of like 1 or 2 moments where you're like, damn, man, that was just the greatest.
I mean, 25 years is a lot of memories in 25 years. God, there's so many. I mean, 25 years, when you think about it, put it put it in perspective, the 25 years I spent there is 2 or 3 times the length of the Beatles' career or Zeppelin's career. I'm not comparing us on a level. I'm just saying in terms of a timeline.
I know that just hurts my head though.
But but it's crazy when you think about 25 years, and there's not many bands that have done 25 years straight without breaking up or splitting off. So God, I mean, there's so many memories. If I had to pick a few, always the one that immediately comes to mind is when we played Radio City Music Hall, sold out last night of the 20th anniversary tour. We had an orchestra with us. We filmed a DVD, hometown gig, Radio City Music Hall, which is such a prestigious, beautiful venue, and we always wanted to play. So that was one of those nights where just all the stars were aligned, and it always is one of the first things I think of as, you know, one of the greatest memories of all those years with the band. Finally playing Madison Square Garden when we played with Maiden.
Iron Maiden. I was at that show.
And that was actually, coincidentally enough, one of my last shows with the band. Actually, that was my last that was my last American tour with Dream Theater before I bailed. So, you know, finally playing Madison Square Garden was something we had always dreamed of and always wanted to do. And finally doing it was pretty amazing. And to do it with Maiden was awesome. I guess maybe our first tour, you know, when Images and Words first came out in 92, and we had spent, at that point, we were together for 7 years already, and we were just, you know, struggling for years and years and years, you know, switching singers and, you know, having, you know, false starts with our record company. And we, you know, there was so many struggles to get to that point. Then when we finally were getting our first taste of success, and Images and Words was doing well and selling well, and Pull Me Under was on the radio and on MTV everywhere we went, and we're finally touring and in a van and getting to play beyond just New York, you know, playing everywhere from Dallas to Chicago to Denver and Seattle and everywhere in between, and then going over to Japan and Europe for the first time. That was exciting too. You know, that was some of the greatest memories. And that's when it was all so innocent. You know, we were in a van and loving it. You know, now you put me in a van now, I'm miserable. I could never do that. You know, I've done these shows with like Metal Allegiance or Adrenaline Mob where you're playing to, you know, 100 people in a club, and it's hard. But back then we were doing it. It was all for the first time, and it wasn't about money or anything else beyond just being in a band and playing together and the camaraderie and the music. And, you know, you only get to have that innocence once before you become a jaded old rock star. So those memories of those early days are still really fond for me.
Awesome. I got to thank you so much for coming in and spending time with us today. I truly appreciate it. Thank you for killing that Pokemon drum kit for us. It was awesome. I'm sure that'll be up by the time this thing is out. But, oh, my God. It's been great to have you in.
Thank you, man. Always my pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure, too. And that's Mike Portnoy, everybody. What an awesome guest he was. Make sure you go onto YouTube and check out that Pokemon drum kit murder that he did for us. It was awesome. And of course, he finished it out with some Slayer, just like last time with the Hello Kitty drum kit. And that Rocker versus Writer segment. I had so much fun doing that one. I know I normally hang back while Joe, all crazy-eyed and foaming at the mouth and whatnot, takes hold of the argument and just tries to destroy our beloved guests. But I had a great time doing it this week. For all you diehard Joe fans, I know there's a lot of you. Cheap. No, he will be back next time, I promise. Make sure you head over to loudwire.com for all your daily rock and metal news. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Give us a nice thumbs up. Give us a nice comment. Head over to iTunes and hit that subscribe button so you can get every episode of the Loudwire podcast. Put it in your iPod, on your phone. Carry it with you wherever you go. Rate 5 stars because you know that's what we deserve. Leave a nice comment there too, if you don't mind. You can follow me on Twitter. My name is Graham. I am at Graham Wire. We'll see you next time. We appreciate you listening so much. Have a great one. Goodbye.